comes to your health, environment is everything. So today is about running towards good health. And here we are on the trail, running up the mountain, doing a video. And hopefully I won't fall, because if I do, I'll promise to post that online so you see it. So, running towards good health, getting away from colds and flus, that's what our topic is today. There's a lot of false information out there about what it takes to be well, healthy, alive, vibrant, and happy. Studies. We seem to want to rely on those a lot. And they're not studying you or me. They're studying for $1, like everyone else. So I thought it'd be unique just to tell you, show you what it is that I do to be happy, healthy, alive and well, and over the age of 50. So thank you for joining me, and here we go. Environment is everything. Everything for your health, everything for your happiness, everything for your aliveness, vitality, energy, everything for your family. Okay, so we're coming up to mile 1 up the mountain here, and I just thought I'd tell you a little bit about external environment, since that's where we're at. Now, the winter months are very, very short in daylight. So it's best to get out in that daylight sunlight. See how it's hitting me against the face? That's vitamin D. That's one of the best things to help prevent colds and flus you can imagine. And you don't want to wash it off right away. You want your skin to absorb it. You also, if you can, you want to roll up your sleeves a little bit to get some more. And remember that old adage, you put that sunscreen on? Yeah, if you're going to be out there in a lot of it and you're going to get burned, maybe. But that means you don't get any vitamin D. And you wash it off, even if you did immediately afterwards through all that junk and those chemicals. So I don't do that. And again, it works for me to stay well. Another external environment, we just passed the mile marker there actually, and for me, and is the air itself. Indoors, some of the most contaminated air on this planet. But just getting outside, even in the city, is important to get rid of that air, that stale air. If you can, when it's warm enough, you throw open those windows. You push them out, push out that air, let it ventilate through the house. And if you can, get up in the morning, either at least some part of the day, get up there and breathe the air, outdoor air, whatever fresh air you can get. And that's very important for you as well. And if you're already prone or been getting sick, you might want to check your internal environment for several things. Have you changed your air filter? In the winter, I'd recommend at least once a month. Or dust and bacteria that feeds off that dust can be stored in there and blown back into your family's lungs. Another one is, did you buy anything new that you have in your house? Do you have new flooring, new carpet, paint, pillows, bedding, new bed spreads, mattresses, couches, all of those things, off gas, chemicals. And again, they'll do that for a long time. Did you get a new apartment and move in? Did they do any renovations inside? Well, if that's the case, you need to be outside even more and ventilate your home even more. Hopefully, if you are getting unwell with respiratory infections in particular, but also other conditions, those are the first things you'll look to take care of yourself. By the way, thanks for coming with me on this. This is the easiest first mile I've ever done. I think it's just annoying I'm videoing for people, but it feels like it hasn't been a half mile yet. So even though you see me breathing hard, it's usually a lot harder than this by this time, so thank you. We are still on this uphill trek, running up a mountain. And while we're doing that, I'd like to discuss two unique food groups or types of food that keep us unhealthy. We want to know that these are not really foods. They are processed items, and in our commercialized world, they actually create injuries in our body. Specifically, these two hurt our respiratory system mucosa, and most likely our digestive system mucosa, since they're really the same. But respiratory system is something we really need to protect because of the exposure during colds and flu season. If you have a wounded area in your body and you connect it or put it in contact with bacteria, viruses, that is just like sticking an open wound into the dirt, and it will be infested with microbes, bacteria, viruses, fungus, and anything that could actually create an infection on that wound. So the two foods that we most want to avoid is both sugar and dairy. Dairy meaning milk products, as eggs are not a milk product or dairy. They're more of a meat product. The number one way to avoid catching colds and flus, again using environment, because environment is everything, is by avoiding milk products and sugar products. And that means all kinds. I know people think honey is great for allergies. Not so during this time of the year. Some people, you may see some limited response with that, but that's because they're already having too much sugar in their diet. I would suggest, if there's a high incidence of colds and flus around you, you're being trapped indoors with people, family in particular, where you're more likely to catch something, and if it's your family, you're most likely to catch something that they're already susceptible to because they have similar lifestyle or habits. And genetics, which genetics does play a part, but it's very minimal. Okay, I am now past the 2 mile mark officially. Just bear with me, and we will get through this together. So, there are some awesome supplements that can help, and I may have talked about this a little bit earlier, but vitamin D is a wonder for helping to keep healthy during the winter months in particular, but anytime that you're not in as much, having as much sunlight, daylight on you, where you have your skin exposed. Now, when we talk about vitamin D, we want to make sure it's D3 if we use for a supplementation. Okay, so this is actually a little bit of a area where it starts downhill for a bit, probably around getting close to that 3 mile mark, at least 3.5 or further out. And so I guess it's not uphill, but it sure seems like it other days. I want to talk about vitamin C. Now, I've seen some people say synthetic and natural vitamin C are the same, and I got to tell you, I've never seen any situation where synthetic actually matches natural, and I would require that people do their best to get it through a food source. I mean, you name it, on and on. They've done studies with vitamin E, only works in a natural source, does not work in a natural source. Same with selenium, has to be a food-based, like in Brazil nuts or a high yeast producing or high selenium producing yeast, even in a supplement, you're not going to find the real benefits of vitamin C, even with just a straight ascorbic acid. I like to use things that are more local, provided by a food, and that would be something like rose hips. All right, so if any supplementation can be done in a normal food, then please do that. You know, you can make rose hip tea, which takes down some of the vitamin C, but there's still loads there, as long as you don't steep it too long, too high of a temperature. I eat rose hips off a bush in my front yard, and I like it to dry out because they get pliable and very sweet after they've dried out on the bush. And that's one's called, I think the one I like is called apple or sweet apple or something like that, as a wild rose. Vitamin C is definitely a help with most respiratory conditions. There's been a lot of studies on that. I do like to use the full spectrum ones where they have the bioflavonoids, and again from food-based plant source only, not straight ascorbic acid or highly distilled products that have that in it. We've gone up to 7,100 and roughly 50 feet elevation climb, and that's pretty good for me for today, and actually better than I expected. And here we go. We're going to go downhill now, and I want to go on talking about some of the homeopathic remedies that could be useful during this time. This year has been really extreme with hitting the ears in particular, and then some of the cervical glands. So again, you definitely want to make sure that there's no dairy and sugar products in your diet at all. But I want to cover a few homeopathic remedies that could be of quite a significant help. So maybe more as a preventative, but for some help, I've been putting in a little bit of Kalimur. That's K-A-L-I, then M-U-R. That's basically potassium chloride in a homeopathic form that I utilize for myself to prevent ears. Although, you know, I've not had to use it this year for myself, but it is definitely very helpful in general for people. I find it that way to help prevent and to help heal and protect those ears in general. One of the best remedies I like using, you'll see on the bottle it's labeled for thick mucus, yellow mucus, is Calibichromicum. That's a nice one to use in general for people as well. It's a potassium bichromate. What I've found that's been the most helpful is Hepar sulf. Hepar sulf is those real strong inveterate infections, especially when throat and ears are involved together, where you swallow and you can feel it in the ears. That's quite a bit of success there. If it's nitricum acidum and Hepar sulf are two of the greatest for that. Nitricum acid may be more of a stinging, but either one could actually help in that situation. And again, there's more online at other people's websites about homeopathic remedies that you may want to look at those yourself for the particular situation you're going through. Homeopathics are not per condition, they're per your experience. So if you decide to use something, make sure that the remedies match your experience. And again, there's a lot of resources online to do that. My own website might have some information, but I don't usually give specific remedy indications because I'm very careful and cautious to figure out, and the ones I use for people in general. Not because they have any side effects, they don't. It's just because I like to be as specific as possible to get the best result for that individual. Let's see. Sulfur has also been very useful this year. You may want to look at the symptoms of that and see if it matches. And let's see what else. Oh, when there's glandular involvement, either Phytolacca or mercurius, one of the mercurius remedies, which is mercury, but again, if you're using it in the 30 potency, either X or C, you're not going to find any mercury in there. It's all been diluted out completely. So, you know, again, please look these up very specifically for what you're going through, and don't just rely on my suggestions. Again, when a person contacts me or I do one for myself, I'm very specific to exactly what that circumstance is. And most of the time, even if it's the same condition going through a household, I will have offered a different remedy to each person. I'm debating with myself whether to put this part in or not, but it is kind of important to understand where ill health comes from. And one of the biggest sources is repetitive medications. So your gut flora and your gut are at least 80% of your immune system. So again, if you eat the things that destroy that, you take the things that destroy that, such as antibiotics, you're crippling your immune system. And God forbid you should use them, over long periods of time, multiple, prescriptions of it. It just gets worse and worse. It does not improve health over time. So another thing that's going to be very controversial that I'm going to include, and I really don't necessarily want to for the basics of this, because it might have some people, discount what we've already gone over, which I would be sorry for. But I'm going to represent it for you, because a lot of you I know, and you're important to me. So many times you'll see a antibiotic or another medication, such as a steroid, work temporarily to relieve symptoms, or even an over-the-counter medication. Those items are very strong, and how they work is by being what I call a medicine by harm or remedy by harm. And we have some of those too in the natural world, but the harm that they can create is so far and few between that you'd have to do an awful lot of it on a repetitive basis for a long time before they cause the same circumstance. Whereas a medication can be taken once and can be fatal. So I'm not advocating that you don't use your doctors. God forbid. I don't want you to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I love testing. I love a lot of things that they bring. But the medications themselves is an area you need to know how they work. And when they, destroy a part of you, it doesn't mean that it's actually taking care of the incident for you. In fact, what you'll see if you don't change the environment or your lifestyle is once the medication no longer is dangerous or have harmed in your body, destroyed the part of your body that it did destroy, and bacteria that's healthy in your gut. And once those have come back, then the symptoms reoccur, either similar or maybe in a different condition, but you're still vulnerable. This is a controversial subject, but it is part of the environment that we live in these days, where natural is criticized and synthetic is touted as a new technology, more advanced. And I'll be honest with you, if we use medicine by harm or remedy by harm, I would only recommend that in the most dire, extreme circumstances where you have to have an immediate push in your body or life or limb is lost. And for using it other times, there's a lot of misinformation saying we shouldn't use all these natural things or less, dire remedies. They used to call it prevention all the time. It used to be labeled as preventative medicine, which in reality is a falsehood. There's no medicine that's preventative, that's lifestyle. And that we need to be using things that aren't going to risk our life. In my opinion, there's no effectiveness without safety first. And we want to keep that in mind. If we keep using things that are destructive to our body in order to change symptoms, but not change the environmental factors of what created the condition in the first place, then we have to use them again and again, harm ourselves again and again, and cause an issue of chronic ill health or disease. lowering our vitality, lowering our energy over and over. So there's more about that and other things I've written in my blog and on my website, but I just want to make sure that's also covered. Talking about the environmental factors that promote colds and flus, you want to think about the time that the candies and everything start to hit the stores about a month before October, a month before Halloween, end of October. It's the beginning of October or so, where people are investing more in the sweets in particular. Then we get less light, we go indoors. When it gets cold, we start spending time more with friends and family in those closed conditions, sometimes higher stress and anxiety, sometimes outright fear in the holidays. So everybody's under we think we're having a vacation, but we're buying presents, we're trying to get together, look good, shopping, meals, we're meeting somebody, timing it, scheduling it. All those things are unusual in the circumstances. And then it gets darker and darker, colder and colder, and we have the indoor heating systems start blowing air. We close up ourselves from the air. We're not going outside. We close the house to be energy efficient, maintain our heat, not spend as much money again that we're spending everywhere else. And you get a really dynamic setup for what we call colds and flus, and we blame the viruses and bacteria, but that's pretty absurd. The viruses and bacteria are always there. Yeah, there may be some that are different with seasons, but that's not what makes us ill. It's our susceptibility. How to stay well, be healthy, is all going to be in your environment. Environment is everything. That's internal, external. And Mary and I know that. So we take on doing we call it a detoxification program. It's really just getting back on track. Detox we always do, but we do a detox program that's very gentle, assisting your body and removing as many of those environmental conditions that cause these situations to help you get well. So it's very effective for me. It's what I found effective for over 26 years with other people. And if you get a chance to check it out, there's a lot of great support in it that Mary and I have come up with to take and start to remove, and tools to help change those specific conditions gently, easily. So again, you know, if you want to check it out, we're here and we love working with you. And thank you for listening today on how to be healthy, how to get away from the cold and flu and run towards health with me. I very much appreciate it. All right, I got a whole 3.5 more miles to go at least, but luckily they're downhill, and I went a lot further today than I thought I would. And again, thank you for that support as well. Whee, downhill now. It's really time to fly. Let's move it. We can get back in no time at all on this hill. It's quite steep coming up, but man, is it nice to fly down as long as you're careful. So I'm gonna turn off this camera and get moving. Thanks for joining me. So the reasons I do these videos in nature is because I feel our health is a lot of times a direct response from separating ourselves from nature. Again, you know, our environment is everything, and every time I go outside, I'm in nature, I definitely feel healthy, wake up, vital, alive, and happy. And I would like to promote that for anybody else that is looking for their health, seeking to be healthier, happier, more vital, and alive. Thank you.